What's up, everybody? You found us to close out your work week, maybe anyway, all things depending. Hopefully, you've got a nice, restful weekend ahead of you and plenty of NFL on the docket come Sunday. This is the Slate. Adam Kaufman, Steve Buchanan, Matt LaMarca. We got a bunch to get to, of course. NFL, there's a lot. There's a 10-game main slate coming up on Sunday. You got 10 games in the NBA tonight. We could hit on that a little bit if anybody has questions. And, of course, you do have one baseball game tonight, not the two. We have to wait until tomorrow for game 6 between the Dodgers and Braves, as LA looking to continue extending that series while Atlanta is eyeing a trip to the World Series. And the Braves not alone. That's what the Astros are trying to do tonight. Game 6 ALCS in Houston. Of course, the Astros have absolutely pummeled the Red Sox the last 2 games at Fenway. And now we see what happens with Nate Eovaldi opposite Luis Garcia tonight. Bukes, LaMarca, good to see you. Bukes, what are your expectations for this one tonight?
Yeah, I think this is I think this game's just going to be a mess. You know, Nathan Eovaldi has not been strong against the Astros throughout the regular season. Obviously got banged up pretty good a couple of games ago on what was a questionable strike call, which is clearly a strike. But obviously that's just how it went, and that's baseball. And then he ended up getting torched up after that. Then Luis Garcia, absolute disaster in the playoffs. And it feels funny to say he's been a disaster when he's only pitched 3 2/3 innings, but when you give up 10 runs on 7 hits in those 3 2/3 innings, you know, it's been basically a disaster for him. He's been great during the regular season, but just not had it in the playoffs thus far. Think it's a high scoring game. I think both teams are in the bullpens early in this one, but I think there's going to be a lot of runs. But, you know, for how I actually feel and for my own, you know, selfish gambling purposes, I think this goes to a game 7.
We'll get into, obviously, sports betting, DFS, all that good stuff, as there's a lot available to you courtesy of DraftKings here tonight. But Bukes mentioned Nate Eovaldi, LaMarca. Of course, he was the winner in game 2, pitched pretty well in that game. He obviously did not have fortune on his side when he came out in relief in game 4, took the loss in that one. So he said there's no limitations for him tonight for anyone's thinking about, you know, rostering a pitcher. Obviously, Nate Eovaldi would be the safer between the two, but he said he's not going to be limited. If you want to take the walk down narrative street, I don't know that you do. You know, the Red Sox are 5-0 when Nate Eovaldi's career postseason starts. He is 4-0 with a sub-3 ERA. Do you like him playing the role of stopper tonight?
I've never thought Nate Eovaldi was a stopper personally. I know his numbers this year are good. I don't see him as that. You know, like the Dodgers have Max Scherzer tonight.
Yeah.
That's their tomorrow. That's a stop.
Yeah.
That's a Cy Young.
Yeah. A
Bulldog
true ace
winner. I don't see that as Nate Eovaldi. His numbers this year are great. His numbers last year were solid. He had a 6 ERA in 2019. You know, like I'm not saying that Nate Eovaldi's bad, right? He's the better starting pitcher in these 2 contests, but in these between these 2 teams, but I don't view him as I would like, okay, the Red Sox have their ace on the mound tonight. Everything's okay now. I still think that this Astros offense can get to him, just like I think that the Red Sox offense can get to Garcia, right? Like this, I agree with Steve. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. We've seen a lot of runs in this series for a playoff game, I expect the Astros to win. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. I still think the Astros are the best team. That's what I've been saying all series. And I don't see any reason to change course now.
The first, well, not the first 2, you know, take game 1 out of it. The next 2 games, obviously, the Red Sox won to go up 2-1 in that series. They outscored the Astros 21-8 in those 2 games. It basically flipped in the last 2 at Fenway. The Astros 18-3 the advantage. So to your point, there's been a lot of runs in this series. The over-under tonight is 9. Bukes, going back to you. Not only are we expecting a lot of runs, I mean, are you pretty comfortably expecting the over here?
I mean, the over is the only thing that's been hitting consistently throughout the playoffs. All these teams have gone through these spells, but the only thing that hasn't gone in these spells has been the over. And this game was at 8.5 this morning. It's up to 9 now. And, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if when the first pitch gets thrown out, the over-under on this game is 9.5. I mean, just there's no way to think that, like, at least the Red Sox aren't going to score in this game with Luis Garcia taking them out. He's shown absolutely nothing to make you think that all of a sudden he's going to go out and have a great start in this one. I mean, he's He's thrown over 100 pitches in the 3 2/3 innings that he's thrown. Like that's mind-boggling that he's thrown that many pitches in such a short amount of time. How is that even possible? But he's done it. So the both bullpens in this series have been absolutely taxed. Like when Alex Cora has to go to Martin Perez in the bottom of the 9th inning for a game that's starting to get out of hand, that just goes to tell you how bad the bullpens have been taxed and used. So, what are the options for the Astros if they have to go into the bullpen early in this one? Like, do you get Zach Greinke back out there? Like, I don't think you want to do that.
I mean,
their bullpen is nice and rested.
Yeah, I mean, they like Framber Valdez and the way he pitched back in Game 5. They reset their bullpen. Like the Red Sox, obviously, are beyond tax, beyond gas. I mean, they didn't use anybody they really care about in Game 5. So you still have, the Houks, the Whitlocks guys. I mean, everybody. It's like all hands on deck. Obviously, when it's possibly your last game of the season. But the Astros, to LaMarcus' point, I mean, they're feeling great.
Now, to be fair, I think I would say it's fair to say that all teams in the playoffs I've been having issues getting into the bullpen early because we've seen so many quick hooks in all these series. Like, Matt, what was it the other game when Scherzer pitched? What was he out by the 4th inning? Yeah. Like all these,
there's been a quick hook. The
all
Dave Roberts
for everybody,
even Max Scherzer, he will not let him go through the lineup 3 times.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So while we can say that the Astros bullpen has been quote unquote reset, and you can say that because, Valdez did go deep into that one, but these guys have all logged a lot of innings thus far. Like nobody really has an advantage. Even when we get to the World Series, no one's going to have like a rest advantage for their either team because the bullpen has been used so heavily throughout the playoffs for everybody. So yes, they were reset because Valdez gave them that strong start. But I would say if you look at past postseason, results, all of these bullpens have been taxed way more than usual.
Again, if anybody's looking at this, you got over under at 9, -110 for both. Either way, whichever way you want to go. It's plus 100 for the Red Sox to win as far as the money line goes. They are 1.5-run favorites in Houston, where they split to begin this series before going back to Fenway and laying an egg, as we know. Plus 155 to win this game. That's where you're going with it, Bukes?
Where am I going?
The Red Sox to win this game, plus 155.
Where are you getting 155?
On the run line, plus 155.
Oh, on the run line. No, I am not touching the run line at all. No, I don't. I mean, do I think that the Red Sox could win this game? Yes. But I mean, taking them at 1.5 on the run line is not something I'm looking forward to do. We're looking to do. I'll take them on the money line at even money. That's something that I would be more interested in doing in this one because, even though there's been a lot of runs in these games, I think this is going to be a close one. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this was, like a 8-6 game or something like that, or an 8-7. I think both sides are going to be able to hit both teams well. So I'd be more inclined to take the Red Sox on the money line on this one at even money because they obviously have the better pitcher going in this matchup, at least as it stands here. So if I'm getting Eovaldi at plus at even money, I'd take that.
For me, it's just, I don't know where you fall on this, Lamarck. I'm sort of the opposite of Bukes. I mean, I don't know how the hell the series is going to wind up. I do think the Red Sox are going to win tonight. I think it's actually going to be kind of lopsided. Doesn't mean it's going to be a 7-run game or something like that, like we've been seeing recently. But I just feel like that's sort of been the trend in this series. There haven't really been many close games, based on the final score. I know there have been some games that have been close to the end and all that. Like the 9-2 game was a close game the other night, but that's because everything happened in the 9th inning there for Houston. Is this going to be close to you, or do you think it's going to be, slanted one way or the other?
I see it as a close game. Game 1 was tight throughout. The series has had some close games. You mentioned the 7-run onslaught in the 8th inning for the Astros that shouldn't have been one of the worst umpired games statistically in history. Sides. I think that there were 21 missed strike calls I saw. Yep. So bring on the robot umps. But I don't see a ton separating these two teams. Again, I like Houston to win. I don't necessarily think they're going to blow up Eovaldi in this spot. So that pushes me towards it being a more competitive contest.
Any particular player props or just, beyond obviously the straight up game itself and sort of the basic props we've been talking about, anything that jumps out at either one of you?
So you can get Jose Altuve, and I'm just going to confirm the number here before I say it because this is what it was this morning. But his over under on total bases was 1.5. You're getting +1. Okay, it is still 1.5 plus 110. That feels really, really good because, I mean, Jose Altuve has been one of their better hitters, obviously, all throughout the regular season. Here in the postseason, already has 5 extra base hits so far in the postseason, and he's got good numbers against Nathan Eovaldi specifically. Like, I don't want to get too much into, BVP in this one, but 6 for 19 against Eovaldi, 3 home runs and a double against him. I mean, that's some pretty good numbers for somebody you're getting plus money on to go over 1.5 bases. So he's already done this in 4 of the 9 games that they've played so far. So I like that number a lot. I think getting that nice number on Altuve is definitely one you want to look at.
LaMarca?
I'm going Jordan Bomb at plus 300.
Chris Sale's not pitching.
That honestly should help him, I would imagine, Mr. Kaufman. He's normally at his best against right-handed pitchers. A power pitcher like Eovaldi throwing it at triple digits. If he hits one, if he gets a hold of one, that sucker's going to go.
Lineups are out, obviously, on both sides. If anybody has, is looking for that, you can find them online. The Red Sox did not. People have been just, begging, for a change. Alex Cora asked about it constantly. Take out Hunter Renfroe. He had a great regular season. I mean, best bang for your buck in baseball in terms of the contract, but he garbage in the postseason. And Bobby Dahlbeck still continues to sit as well as he played toward the end of the regular season. Is this, Bukes, you feel good about the decisions in terms of the players that are available for the Red Sox tonight?
I mean, you just kind of just go with, what you want. I mean, he dropped Hunter Renfroe down to the A spot, which is probably where he's more suited. I mean, to be fair, they milked the hell out of Hunter Renfroe. Like, coming into this season, he was never that guy. He was never that guy. He was, a guy that you would play against lefties. And then when the lefty's out, you take him out of the game. He's been playing in a full-time gig, and that's not the type of player that he's been. Like, can he do that? Did he show that he could do that this year? Yes, potentially, but that's never been his role. He has just been a guy that's off the bench as a pinch hitter, or he starts against lefties and then he's done. So the Red Sox used him. They milked it, they milked everything they could out of him to get him. He's got some good numbers against righties this year, but that's not what we've seen from him historically. So I agree that that's where he should be in the lineup. Maybe not batting behind Christian Arroyo, whatever, but batting in the lower part of the lineup tonight, I think it is appropriate. Other than that, I have no problem with this lineup. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Verdugo and Hernandez switch a little bit, just because, at least for Garcia, his numbers against lefties are much worse than they are righties. So kind of get that left onslaught, 3 lefties in a row. Schwarber, Verdugo, and Devers right at the top there. I wouldn't hate that there. But other than that, I think this is appropriately done. I mean, who am I to say? I'm just some nerd on DraftKings, but whatever.
Sure. Yordan Alvarez, just looking at some of the numbers, you were talking about him before, obviously. OBP sitting close to 500, 4 extra base hits, 8 RBI, and that's in the it's in the series postseason overall, whatever the case. He has been obviously
over some segment of time. Those are great numbers.
He's been, I could
use those numbers.
I could pull up the more specific numbers here.
Why don't you just ask the analysts the questions and stop doing your own research? You ask questions, we'll delegate. Do that.
This is good. So I get to delegate to you as you delegate to me. This is fun.
Yeah.
Good.
Do you want me to host?
Anything jump out at you on the Astros side there, Bukes?
Ask LaMarca a question. I just gave you like a 2-minute answer. Ask him a question.
Shut up already. Go to LaMarca, please.
This is pretty much the standard lineup that we've seen from the Astros. I mean, I want to say that they had an outfielder that got scratched the other day, but that was not McCormick, correct? That was Myers.
It was Myers, yep.
Yeah, McCormick stays in there. Maldonado behind the dish. Certainly nobody in that top 7 is coming out of the lineup during the postseason, barring an injury. So I think this is pretty much what you would have expected from the Astros. And, that top 7, arguably the best top 7 in the league. So Eovaldi's going to have his work cut out for him. They're good. They're talented. They're locked in. And there's really no breaks until you get to those bottom 2 guys.
Yeah.
Those Alvarez stats are on the whole postseason. I just want you to know.
Thank
I
you,
want
Adam.
to dig those up for you, Bukes. It's important. All right. Anything else from this game you want to hit on before we go over to football? or we just bury Bukes in basketball for a while.
Can I go to the other baseball series?
Yeah,
by all means, please
take the Dodgers to win the series. Thank me later.
Wow.
Thank me later, he says. All right, well, let's
I would have
look at
told you to
what we
do
have
it
on
at
DP
3
Sports
when
Book
they were
for you
down
right now.
3-1, but that wasn't on then.
Obviously,
Last show I
have
said
you have a Twitter.
Now.
That's
You
true.
do have Twitter. Dodgers
That's true.
are, they are the favorites in Atlanta. The standard 1.5 line. 7.5 is the over/under for that game. You're gonna have Scherzer against Ian Anderson again. It is tomorrow, basically 24 hours away from where we stand right now. If that it could change, the time of the game could change depending on what happens in the ALCS. But that you're feeling as well, Bukes. Dodgers. I don't know about the series, but they're going to take Game 6.
I mean, look, if you were going to tell me that, the Braves were going to be up 3-1 at some point, I would have not believed you. Like, I honestly thought that this series would be over in 5 games. Quite frankly, I never gave the Braves much of a chance. So I'm probably not the best person to answer this here, but honestly, like this series has confused me so much that I don't have a good take on it. And that's a crap answer, but I really don't. But getting plus 190 for the Dodgers to win the series when you have Scherzer going tomorrow and he's going to be amped up. Like I said, this was a guy that got, looked like he got beat up in an alleyway, then went out and, pitched an unbelievable game. And
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, was swearing at everybody
and spitting and yelling and
like making fun of people's families and their income. Like he was doing everything, like all low blows. He was doing it. So getting that guy to go while the Dodgers are plus 190 to win the series. I mean, yeah, I have to agree with Lamarca. That's a very, very enticing number right now.
I don't have the NLCS numbers handy. I have the ALCS, which is 5 of 20 teams that have trailed the ALCS have ever come back from down 3-2 to win the series. Red Sox have done it 3 of those 5 times. Not sure, again, where things stand in the NLCS. I bring that up to tell you this. Nando in the chat, Braves Astros will be one of the most boring World Series ever. Do you have, just in terms of general, take betting out of it for a second, just terms of general interest level as a fan, what are you rooting for among these final 4 here, Lamarca?
Dodgers, Astros for me. As a New York Metropolitan fan, I hate the Braves. I don't like the Dodgers either, but I hate the Braves. And since I started working with all of you Boston people, my
not a big fan of Boston.
The Red Sox has just grown 100-fold.
Yeah.
I would have used to say that they were like my second team, because I hate the Yankees and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But now I hate the Red Sox probably more than I hate the Yankees.
Wow.
That's fair.
Boston fans have just gotten so smug recently.
Well,
so,
not just recently, like over 2 decades.
That's so fair, Lamarca. I mean, there's some people that work here that even like as a Boston fan myself, like they're just insufferable. Like, one of them is hosting this show. There's some other guys that work at DraftKings that are just absolutely insufferable. And that's coming from a Red Sox fan. So coming from someone who's not a Red Sox fan, like I'm with you. I can understand that. As a fan though, yes, Glass Sheen is one of them. Thank you. As a fan though, like I would probably be interested if neither of the team or my team in the Red Sox Dodgers. I mean, return of Mookie Betts in a Dodger uniform at playing a World Series here. Like that would be horrible to see. But like from a storyline perspective, like, yeah, I would want that, of course. Sale versus Scherzer, that's some good stuff there.
No, from a narrative standpoint, there's no better outcome for Major League Baseball and ratings too, for that matter. You're like, what's going to do better, Boston, LA, or Houston, Atlanta, or whatever combination.
Look at ratings wise, they're not going to be great no matter what. Well, let's just be fair, okay? Let's just be fair. But you'll get a tick, you'll get a little bump from Red Sox Dodgers just because of the markets alone. You're not going to get that from Atlanta, Houston.
If anybody has any questions, by all means, shout them out on the YouTube or on Twitter or Twitch or wherever you're finding us. We appreciate it. Happy to answer. We're here with you for about another 20 minutes. Let's start to mix in a little bit of football. Maybe we'll get Lamarca's basketball takes before we get out of here as well, because, again, there's a 10-game slate available to you tonight. But in terms of football, of course, Week 7 kicked off last night. It was as Thursday night football gets. A injury-riddled Browns team against a Broncos team that has not all that compelling either in a banged up Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, Cleveland won that game by a few points, but I think the most interesting thing, and we won't dwell on it, we'll look at the main slate in a second, but the most interesting thing is that sometimes, guys, the chalk hits. For all of you out there that said, I have to captain D'Ernest Johnson tonight, you were rewarded. That dude went off, and he is listening to him after the game and all the great stories that have come out about him since. He's just one of those fun guys clearly to root for. Great story. Read about it if you're unfamiliar. And that game went about as we expected it to go, Bukes.
Did it?
I think it did. Yeah. You don't?
No.
What were you expecting?
The Broncos to win, because the Browns had absolutely nobody to take the field. So the interesting thing was, at least for me, is that I think it's fair to say that the Broncos, defense through the first 3 games was extremely fraudulent. Like, they might be one of the biggest 3-0 frauds to start, but you look at the competition and it's fair to say why that happened.
Yep.
With that said, their run defense, at least going into that game, had been solid. Opposing teams had only gone over 100 rushing yards once of those 6 games. Opposing teams were averaging about 3.7 yards per carry. That was one of the lower averages in the league. And then you got the third string running back, kind of running house all over them. Now, to be fair, they were giving him the ball a lot because you don't want to be giving it to Case Keenum. And I think, what we saw from him shows exactly why. I mean, he threw it and, a cameraman was murdered on the sidelines during that game. I mean, that's just the guy Case Keenum is. With that said, I thought Johnson was going to get the ball enough. I didn't think he was going to do as well as he did. So I thought the Broncos were going to win that game just because of the lack of what the Browns even had, injuries to the offensive line too. But they ended up with the win. So I don't think, and for as much as that line dropped, I don't think it went, as it should, but that, obviously the Browns did enough to win.
LaMarcus, how'd you feel about that one?
Yeah, just more proof that you should never pay a running back. Like, never, ever, ever do it. Just never do it. If you're thinking about doing it, don't. Like, it's just a bad decision. Pro Football Focus gave D'Ernest Johnson the highest grade of any running back in any game this season.
What?
The third string random guy for the Browns just had the best running back performance of the entire season.
Are you sure?
He was unbelievable. Went for about 150, the touchdown, couple catches.
So week 5 for Derek. That beat week 5 for Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Didn't Aaron Jones have a 4-touchdown game?
I mean, listen, I don't do the grading. I'm just saying what I saw on Twitter.
Look, I don't think anybody actually understands the Pro Football Focus grading.
Nobody,
we all reference it.
That's true.
But I mean, like, in all seriousness, I took the Broncos last night. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I saw that, the team was going to be down their starting quarterback. And more importantly, I thought their entire running game, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this Browns team is built around. They can run the ball on anybody. And you know what? They still can. Just going to be D'Ernest Johnson now. Maybe it'll be you next week, Kaufman. Like,
I'm not built for it. I think Felton will get an opportunity before me. I'd get snapped like a twig.
He can only play for the Red Sox.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, let me suit up for the Red Sox. That'll be perfect. I won't hit any better than Christian Arroyo. All right, how about the main slate then as we look ahead to Sunday? Obviously, you got a lot of big spreads, a lot of lopsided games that are expected. I mean, look at this. Rams favored by 16 in the homecoming for Jared Goff and the Lions. You got an almost 20-point spread, 18.5. The Cardinals are favored at home against the Texans, who may be just days away from trading Deshaun Watson finally. It looks like he could be going to Miami. We'll see how all of that plays out. What are you guys keying in on here? Bukes, we'll start with you. Which games interest you most?
I absolutely love the Packers this week against the Washington football team from a betting perspective and from a daily fantasy perspective. I think, at least for daily fantasy, and I'll just start there real quick, Aaron Rodgers this week is going to be like 3% owned. And I feel like he's going to absolutely carve up this Washington secondary. Like, the funny thing is on a normal week, Rodgers would be way more popular this week. But you have 3 teams that are favored by double digits You have Patrick Mahomes going against the Titans in a game that is almost an over-under of 58. Like, nobody is going to be paying attention to Aaron Rodgers. So I'm like literally licking my chops for 1:01 p.m. on Sunday to see that I'm getting Aaron Rodgers at like 3% ownership with Devontae Adams. Now, from a betting perspective, I think you missed the boat on this already because, I wanted to get the Packers at 7 when it was at 7.5. I don't think we're going to get to that point anymore. It's moved up to 8. So I'll probably just end up using the Packers in a couple teaser plays, but the Packers should annihilate this Washington football team who could only put up 13 points against the Chiefs last week. The Chiefs coming into last week were literally the worst secondary in the league, and they only managed 13 points against them. That is incredible. If you can't score against the Chiefs, then you have a serious problem scoring, period. So they're not going to do it against the Packers, who, to be fair, are down in their secondary. The loss of Jaire Alexander cannot be misspoken about. But -8 for the Packers, get them down to -2 if you're doing a teaser. Obviously not the best number, but that's where I'm going to stand on that. But at least from a daily fantasy, I am so in love with viewing Aaron Rodgers this week because his ownership is probably going to be the lowest of the season in a good matchup, by the way.
How about you, LaMarca?
Just to piggyback off Bukes here, Aaron Rodgers for his career as a home favorite. Normally we talk about quarterbacks and they thrive as underdogs, right? Aaron Rodgers is like the bully on the schoolyard. When he thinks he is better than you, he is just going to rub your face in it. Ask the Chicago Bears fans. He owns you.
Owns them.
Rodgers as a home favorite, 56, 32, and 3 against the spread in his career. 23.7% return on investment. Easily the best quarterback in football in that situation. I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals here catching 6.5 from the Ravens.
Yes.
The public perception on this Ravens team has gotten a little bit out of control for me.
Totally.
Yes, they are 5-1. They beat the Chiefs. They looked really good against the Chargers last week. But I remember this team needing a 66-yard field goal to beat the Detroit Lions. I remember this team being down 16 points in the fourth quarter against the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm catching nearly a full touchdown with a Bengals team that I think is better than most people realize. Give me the Bungles.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited that LaMarca's on the Bengals. The Bengals were my first bet this week. I have just, like, at least from me personally, the Bengals have been a cash cow for me so far this season. Like, they're only 3-3 against the spread, but they're covering by an average of just under 6 points in that scenario. And they are not 6.5-point dogs for the Ravens. No chance at all. And the amazing thing is too, is like, and I talk about this with Julian Edlow a lot. We love to do teasers. The Ravens are a prime team to tease. I have zero interest in them this week. So like when I see a 6.5-point favorite, when you can tease them down to basically just win, no interest at all. I think the Bengals come out and shock the Ravens in this one. I don't even hate taking them on the money line at plus 215. This Bengals team is a lot better than people think. Their run defense is a lot better than people think. And that's what the Ravens love to do, is run the ball. So if they cannot run the ball against this Bengals team, which is very possible, Bengals are going to win.
That game just below on the screen for those watching, that below the one you guys are talking about, obviously the Chiefs and the Titans, the over-under, highest of the week by far, 57.5. We all know the Chiefs offense is capable of. What's that?
Highest of the season.
Yeah, it's nuts. We all know it. We all know what Kansas City's offense can do. We all know what Derrick Henry can do. We've seen it on display from both sides time and time again. That being said, 57.5, LaMarca. Would you go near it?
Yeah, I love the over. I think when we start getting into this stratosphere of total, right? It's just hard for the books to accurately gauge what the number should be. We've had 19 games since 2004, most of them recently, with a closing total of at least 57 points. The over in those games is 13-6. And it's just because it's hard, right? You can't set this total any higher. How much higher can you possibly go? But everything that we've seen suggests that this total should probably be in the 60s. The Chiefs score all the time and they can't stop anyone. Derrick Henry is just going to grind them into oblivion. That's really the only concern that you have, right? Is that the Titans take too long to score. You're not worried about them scoring. It's just like, oh, maybe they'll take some 10-play drives. But yeah, I think that the over here is definitely the play for me.
If we're looking DFS, is there a particular team stack that you really like this week? I mean, is it one of those two teams? Maybe it's a game stack in that case, although there'd be so many, higher price options that I'm not sure you necessarily would want to do that. But Bukes, is there a particular game that interests you in that way?
I mean, here's the funny thing is like this game is going to be, potentially, 60 plus points, like LaMarcus said. I think you'd be surprised how low owned Ryan Tannehill is going to be. People are going to overlook Ryan Tannehill because if you're going to target this game, LaMarcus is ready to jump in. I can see the excitement.
No, you're right. Because he's been stink all year. He's been stink.
Of course. But to be fair, would you not be interested if I did not put if I covered up the quarterback, right? You didn't know who's playing, but you gave him all the scenarios and all the stats for this game, and you gave his salary. You'd be like, yeah, I'd be interested in Ryan Tannehill. Would you not?
Right. 100%. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to go against me.
No. I'm saying that he's been playing terrible. And like, I thought that the Bills situation was one where he might have to throw the ball more because they've been so good against the run, and it just doesn't matter. I think honestly, like I just jam in Derrick Henry. Just do it. It's boring. But he's just going to get there. Do you know how I know? Because every running back gets there against the Chiefs and Derrick Henry never busts.
Right. I would say though, if you're doing like a tournament, if you do Tannehill and then use both Jones and barring that they're healthy, Jones and Brown, you're going to be so much different than the Fields.
It's definitely an interesting lineup build for sure.
It really is because people are going to gravitate immediately towards Mahomes, and that's fine because the Titan secondary has been god awful. They're going to go towards Mahomes. They're going to go towards Kelsey, who is going to play in this game, and they're going to go towards Hill, right? So if you take it back the other direction and you go with Tannehill, with Brown, and even with Jones, that's going to be a unique build. And I would guess to say, if I had to guess what Tannehill's ownership is going to be, under 10%, I think is very viable. Maybe even under, I was going to say maybe even at 5. So for a tournament and a game that could be really approaching 60 points, you're out of your mind if you're not taking the quarterback that's 2K less expensive.
Yeah, Tannehill coming in $6,400. Could you make the case though, LaMarca? We'll go back to you. Go even cheaper. Now, I'm not saying this guy's going to be chalky. In fact, his ownership is probably going to be somewhere in that 5 to 10% range also, something like that.
Don't say Tua.
I'm not going to say Tua. I would never say Tua. But how about
I
Derek
like
Carr? Is there a better potential value option at quarterback this week than Derek Carr, especially if you're looking to pay up elsewhere?
I do think that Carr is going to catch more ownership than you think because he has, a good matchup. He's pretty cheap. People are going to be looking
6K.
for ways to save money and get in, the Tyreek Hills and Derrick Henrys of the world. So I think Carr actually catches a pretty decent bit of ownership here. I would say like around 10%. So I do kind of like Tua, guys. I know you were joking around, Bukes, but Tua threw the ball 47 times last week. 47 times. He's 5,500. And to me, that's the easiest way to win a tournament. I know there are other ways. I just think it's the easiest way that I can think of. You take a cheap quarterback and stack him up with 2 of his pass catchers usually, and then you just jam in the studs, make it happen. So now, I kind of like the Tua to go with Jalen Waddle. Maybe if you really want to get frisky, you throw Mike Gesicki in there too, something like that. But yeah, I think Tua on this slate is my like garbage stack quarterback that I'm looking at.
Is Parker out officially again?
Haven't seen an official.
Yeah.
we do get the official injury report on Friday, so I'm sure somebody out there knows. I'll take a quick peek while you guys talk.
Yeah,
Just because I would say I would only really like Tua if Parker is in. If Parker is not in, then that's where I lose interest. Because in the couple games that he hasn't had Parker, I mean, it just has not worked out extremely well for Tua. Parker is kind of that guy for him. And Waddle, who really could have stepped into that big role 2 weeks ago, did almost nothing. So that's
he had 2 touchdowns last week.
So here's the big news today in terms of the injury roundup. And a lot of this you'll know, but for anyone that doesn't, guys who are out, key guys who are out: Antonio Brown, Curtis Samuel, Rob Gronkowski, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Lamarcus guy, Kadarius Toney, Latavius Murray, Sammy Watkins, Trey Lance is not playing. Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back. Nobody notable who's doubtful. Questionable guys: Antonio Gibson, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, T.Y. Hilton, Devontae Parker still questionable. Allen Robinson expected to play. Dallas Goedert, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, again Garoppolo, and Sony Michel. Those are the bigger names that we've got as far as your Friday roundup.
You put Sony Michel in the big names.
Sure did. Just out of love and loyalty. We got a couple minutes left. Lamarca, let's go NBA real quick. Again, it's a 10-gamer tonight. The studs, there are a plenty available to you. You got the Joker at the top. He is the top projected player, somewhere in that vicinity of 55, 60 points, depending on where you want to look. Joel Embiid, James Harden, Domantas Sabonis, Kevin Durant, Julius Randle, Tatum, obviously looking for a bounce back. Those are your bigger names tonight. You got quite a few value guys as well. But anything stand out to you in the wide world of fantasy?
Yeah, none of those guys that you mentioned.
Okay, so you're going for more of a balanced game?
I think that this is a clear, balanced slate lineup. You have a lot of guys on DraftKings tonight who are priced just well below what they're capable of. Nikola Vucevic is probably my favorite play. Mm-hmm. He was 9K on opening night. He struggled from the field. He was 7 for 21 shooting. Now he's down to 7,800. Love it. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, 6,700. Yep. Love it. Fred VanVleet, 6,900. Love it. Christian
Kyle
Wood,
Kuzma?
7,100. Love it. Bing bong. See you in the moneymaker section.
The last one you said was Christian Wood, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's my favorite tonight. Kyle Kuzma, watch out for Kyle Kuzma tonight at $5,700. You can showcase himself now that he's no longer in LeBron's shadow. All right, time for us to go enjoy the baseball game tonight. Make all your lineups, all that good stuff. Again, first pitch is just a shade over 2 hours from now. And, of course, a busy football Sunday on the way. Slate comes your way Monday through Friday, so always join us for that. We appreciate it. Right around 5 o'clock after the 4 o'clock Madden Sims. And the Sweat, it is Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Sundays as well, to get you started for a busy football Sunday. For our producer, Eamon, as well as Bry Guy on the 1s through 7s, our technical director, Lamarca Bukes, who is just sour at everybody because today was his last day of the season on MLB Network. I'm Adam Kaufman. We'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy baseball. We'll see you.